Hello everyone, I'm Everlake. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be continuing our Pokemon VGC podcast series. This is going to be the second episode. Now before we get into it, if you could smash that like button down below and click subscribe and just comment how you like the series, that'd be greatly appreciated. I really want to see support for this series. Before Another thing before we get into it, I'm going to try to have the third episode of this podcast series up this weekend, since today's video is not going to be a long video. I know it's not really a podcast, but I think I'm going to classify it as one. And also this week I'm going to have some Pokemon Battle Spot videos coming up. The Battle Spot might still be down because of the competition, VGC International February competition. If you did not check that out, I actually live streamed that, all my battles. So go check that out. I actually did pretty well. But we're gonna be doing it on Showdown. If not, and if it is, if it is online, then everything is gonna be on the Battle Spot. But anyways, today's episode is on. Well, there is no such thing as a bad play. Now I don't have a script for this, so I kind of know what to say. So we'll see what happens. I'm a little concerned. Just real quick, I'm gonna make sure this thing's recording. As it is recording, okay, we are good. So there's no such thing as a bad play, and I think one of the things, or the main thing that led me to this sort of thought, is that I was watching this one YouTuber's video. Now I don't know if I should give credit or not, because there was this one person in chat that was being a little bit disrespectful, so I'm just gonna leave it a little bit anonymous. But he was doing a video, and he was on Showdown. He was playing Pokemon games, Pokemon VGC. I think it was either Moon Series or the Ultra Series. I think it was Moon Series though games, and he had a Xerneas out against a Tapu Koko and a Salamence, and he went for the Geomancy. And his opponent did not taunt with this Tapu Koko. And then the person said, I hate playing low ladder, which he's not low ladder. He's actually pretty decently high up. And he said, or the person typing that little angry message said that, that they didn't. Like, why would you Geomancy in front of a Tapu Koko and make a Salamence? Because I can easily just, taunt, Electrium ZU. He had a Manectric, but he couldn't Mega Evolve that, you know what I mean? ZU is I hate this. Like, why would you ever do that? And that got me thinking, well, and he said that was a bad play. And that got me thinking, why was that a bad play? I mean, yes, you did Geomancy in front of something that is commonly known to use taunt. But does that make it a bad play? Just because someone can do something doesn't mean they're always going to do it. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring to. Yeah, there's no such thing as a bad play. And the main reason behind this idea is that, every play that you make has a different context behind it. Because you make plays based upon what your opponent's doing and how you want to react to that certain scenario. Like, in one match, let's say my opponent has a Xerneas. And I know that Xerneas is more of an offensive variant. So I'm going to deal with it in a different manner than what I would do with a defensive Xerneas. You know what I mean? You're going to handle situations different based upon different things. And what I think is that when someone says that was a bad play, was it really though? Because let's say, oh, that was a bad play, you should have done this. But why should you have done that? And when they may say, well, it's the correct play, that's what you're supposed to do. And then that gets me thinking, if that's what you're supposed to do, then wouldn't your opponent know that your opponent might know that that is the way that most people do it, and then counteract that play by not doing what you thought they were going to do, right? And so you could say, oh, well, you misplayed. But they're like, wait a second, no, because I knew you were going to react this way. So I could base my play off of how I know you're going to react, because that's what the general public does. If somebody tells you that was a misplay, I don't think it is. I don't. Everyone plays scenarios differently. Now, it's hard to decipher whether, like, I don't know about there is no such thing as a bad play, because there are some questionable plays, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Like, I wanted to kind of preference this and say, like, yeah, there's so many scenarios. And, like, okay, if there's an accepted way to go around a play, like, if you see a Xerneas on the field, um, the accepted way would be to try to nullify that Xerneas, try to make it so it can't set up that Geomancy. And if you ignore the Xerneas, then that quote unquote is a bad play because they could have swept you right there. But then the person might say, well, no, because let's say A, they know how the person plays, B, they're high ladder, so they know that their opponent is going to think that, okay, well, my Xerneas is going to get, like, targeted down, so let's switch in my Incineroar for more support and for better positioning, so I can save my Xerneas later, maybe KO his Kartana that's out on the field right now, so my Xerneas can have an easier time, whatever it may be. But I just don't think that, like, okay, yeah, it might have been, quote-unquote, the majority accepted bad play, but since it was that majority accepted bad play, not too many people are going to be expecting it, right? And the element of surprise in Pokemon can be sometimes really huge. Actually, I watched the St. Louis Regionals, and I forget his name, but this one person won, and he advanced to either top 4 or finals, because he used a quick attack choice banded Tapu Koko. Like, who's going to use that? It's not a bad play because that doesn't really have anything to do with in the context, but just because it's like, some people say, why the heck would you ever run that? And it's because of those situations where your opponent is not going to expect it. Because if you run these teams that have, like, the same Pokemon, like, let's say I would look at a team of, like, Kyogre, Xerneas, Kartana, Incineroar, Tornadus, Amoonguss. We've seen that team many times, and you've seen that team perform many times by players and how they play it. And if you can look at that team and you can say, okay, well, I know how this team's play style is, it kind of gives you a better gist of what to do. So I feel like saying anything's a bad play is not good. I'm going to be repeating myself here, but I hope I can gather some more stuff along the way. Because, like, let's say, if the majority of people think it is, right? Then people are going to be like, oh, if the majority of people think that this is the way that you respond to this, then the person that's going against the person that is thinking of that, response mindset knows that, hey, they're probably thinking about this response mindset and how, they will respond to this move. So I can counteract that because I know that tons of people do that. So in that sense, the opponent's response is not a good play. But you may say, well, there's no such thing as a bad play. And that's what I wanted to move on to. It all comes in a context. Because, I don't know if you've seen some matches, Pokemon VGC matches, and you'll look and say, oh, that was a bad play from my opponent. They should have done this, or they should have done that. Or you look at a team, and you say, or you look at a match, right? The Xerneas, Kyogre, or the generic reindeer team that was really popular in Sun, and still is, honestly. Not as much though, but still very popular, very predominant. But if you look at a reindeer team, like, let's say you're looking at it, and you basically come down to a position where you have to counter both Xerneas and Kyogre, and your team, like, all in one turn, in that starting first turn, and you just kind of gave it a best guess and said, okay, they're going to lead Kyogre because you can't deal with both, but you want to have a better ground at one, and you might stand a chance against the other, but it's highly unlikely that you'll stand a chance against Xerneas, but your opponent's are you just going to give an educated guess your opponent's going to lead that Kyogre because you can't really counter both. So you decide to counter the one, and then they lead the Xerneas instead. So is that really a bad play? Because you were anticipating one of the two, and you brought forth your best position or your best strategy against that team, against that composition. And let's say it was vice versa. Let's say you were anticipating Xerneas to lead, and so you put everything out for Xerneas that you had, which might be much, but you also want to prepare for Kyogre, but you prioritize Xerneas. because you thought that was going to be the correct lead, and then they like Kyogre. You know what I mean? Like, it could be vice versa, but you made the call. You made the decision to prioritize that, making it that priority to make sure that you can counter that, like a good VGC player should, being able to identify the threats, being able to go about in which ways to counter them. But yet some people would say, well, that's a bad play. Just because they didn't choose the correct decision doesn't mean it was a bad play. Because at the end of the day, sometimes Pokemon just comes down to luck. Like, you can be some of the most experienced players in the, well, probably the most experienced players in the world, and you can have a vast amount of knowledge, and like pretty much most of the time you can say, okay, I know my opponent's gonna do this, but sometimes it comes down to those two scenarios, and sure, you can have evidence from, how your opponent plays, how, like, what's your opponent's personality, how they respond to certain stuff, what's their team composition, how would their team react. But if it comes down to a choice where it could literally be either one based upon those categories, it comes down to an educated guess based on what your opponent does. But it's going to come down to those categories. And at that point, it's an educated guess. And by saying, oh, that was a bad play because you didn't prepare for Xerneas as well, but, let's say you prepared for Xerneas and Kyogre led, people will still be saying, oh, that's a bad lead because you didn't prepare for Kyogre. Like, it's not fair to say that that was a bad play. So I think that it's safe, or it's somewhat safe to say that you shouldn't say things are bad plays. And besides, people have different thought processes, right? You could have a person, right? I'm trying to think of an example here. It's a little bit tough. But you could have a person that, like, responds completely differently to a certain situation. And people would look at that at first and say, that's completely dumb. You're, like, that's ridiculous. Why would you ever do that? Like, it's bonkers. No, that's not the correct play. But at the end, they would get maybe just the same, or if not better result. But it's because everyone works differently. Like, I know, lots of people respond differently in Pokemon. Like, some people are very defensively. I know some people that are very defensive, like Wolf Glick. He plays very defensive, and positioning is huge for him. And there are other people that favor more of an offensive strategy. Like, everyone thinks differently in terms of how they want to play the game. So I don't think it's fair when people give that judgment and, say that was a bad play without without thinking about, like, to the mind of the player. I don't think that's fair because, yeah, everyone plays differently, and, they might think differently. Like, for some stuff, like, even in school, for some stuff, we'd be in, like, algebra class, right? And everyone would be doing a problem, and our teacher would say, okay, who did it this way? And everyone in the whole entire class would raise their hand, and I wouldn't raise my hand. And then I raised my hand and said I did a different way that we weren't taught because, we had the start of the lesson. And I would get the same answer. It'd just be a different way of thinking about it, It's of how people get there. And yes, I mean, sometimes people make a bad call, or just a call that's like, they missed call. Let's put it that way. They missed call. Like, they called the Xerneas to come out first, but out came the Kyogre. And here's where it gets tough because sometimes you just play badly. Like, sometimes you just play terribly. Like, you just, I don't know, you switch in an Incineroar on that you need for that Lunala on a Kyogre's Water Spout for no apparent reason, just because you're not paying attention, or something like that. Just a bad play that could lose you ground, and that's where it kind of crosses the line. I'm not so sure, but I feel like those are far and few between because I'm not so sure of many people that switch in an Incineroar, or at least a full power Water Spout. Even Assault Vest, I don't know if it'd take it. I think it probably does, but I think it's just a good I think it's a good thing to think about is that don't say that that play was bad. Because always think about the context. Think about the person and how they play the game. Think about how they interpret the certain scenario. Think about even if it's the most accepted way to go about a situation, how that might not even be the correct situation since lots of people know about it. In my opinion, I think that's one of the most important things. I mean, if so many people know about how to handle a situation, right? Like let's say you have a Sun team, right? And this is gonna be a bad example, but we're gonna go with it. Let's say you have a Sun team and your opponent has a Rain team. Your opponent has a Kyogre out, and they have a Kartana, right? And you have Pokemon. I don't even know. Pokemon that can't deal with Water Spout. You have a Stack Attack without Wide Guard. It's gonna have Wide Guard, but let's do it without Wide Guard for this example. And an Incineroar out that's like at 150 HP or 75%, right? And your Kyogre Scarf, and they're gonna go for Water Spout, and both of your Pokemon are gonna be KO'd, right? So let's say you decide to switch out your Incineroar for your Groudon because Stack Attack is not doing much in that game since it's slower than Kyogre. It will always, if Kyogre comes in, it will die to a Water Spout. It's not going to be doing much, but Incineroar, it gets Fake Out Pressure and Intimidate support. So therefore, it's better to conserve that Pokemon. And so you're thinking, oh yeah, I get the Sun Up, I can live a Water Spout. Kartana's going to go like Sacred Sword Groudon, it's not going to do anything. Or like Sacred Sword on Stack Attack, and let's say it's Chople Berry. Like, we're making up stuff because this seems a little bit weak now that I'm thinking about it. But it's gonna be the overall concept, right? And so your Stack Attack lives the Sacred Sword. It would live the Sacred Sword, but let's say your opponent's like, well, you're gonna switch out for the Groudon, right? And they go for like a freaking Water Spout, which wouldn't KO Groudon, right? And they go for like a Leaf Blade, right? And now their Kartana's +1, and so now you go into Incineroar. They protect Kartana, and you just lose because of that. Because they, outmaneuvered you and outpredicted you because maybe you made the more acceptable and the call that everyone makes. And because everyone makes that combo, like if you play a person and, let's say you're in the Ultra Series, right? And you have your Groudon out, and they have their Kyogre, right? And your Desert Land is up, or whatever it's called. And so your Sun's up, so they can't touch you. But they decide to switch out their Raichu for their Rayquaza, and now you get one shot by the Water Spout since it's a Rayquaza's ability. It's not Mega, so it's Airlock. So next game, you'll be more cautious of that. You'll look at that and say, okay, well, that didn't go as well as planned, so let me do this time, or something like that. And so that way, the more you can play around the more accepted way, and being able to predict that. So in many ways, maybe the most accepted way is not the way you want to go about it. Maybe trying to maneuver in a way that's not as accepted, but kind of counteracts your opponent's thought process is the better play. Or maybe just playing straightforward is, or more of a well accepted performance. That is the way. It also depends on the person, depends on their play style, it depends on their personality wise and how they want to handle certain situations. That also comes into effect. But I don't really know how I want to wrap this up. But whenever someone says to you in a tournament or whatnot, that was a bad play, sometimes, in some cases, it just might have been a bad play. Like, I'm not going to say there is no such thing as a bad play. Every play is a perfect play. You all, like, every VGC player has nothing to improve on. Like, I have so much to improve on, of course. I mean, so much. I've come so far in the past couple of months, but I have still so far to go. No, that's not what I'm saying. Well, except that last part. But what I'm saying is, like, if there's a time when, you think, oh, that was a bad player, oh, I predicted that wrong, look at the situation more and kind of think about it more. Now, don't let this be your something that you rely on. Like, you look at a strategy, or you play the game wrong, it's like, oh, well, there's nothing I could have done about that because all it did was it came down to, just a roll or a roll of the dice to see what my opponent led. No, I mean, there are little hints that you can pick up throughout matches that'll help evaluate you, but just kind of keep that in mind as you go forward. I think it'll help you, and it'll help kind of define how you really want to play matches, especially in the ways of thinking about certain scenarios and how you want to play them, and how your opponent might want to play them. But don't fall back on that. Don't fall back on, oh, it's only because of they led this. They'll lead this next time. Don't. That's not what I'm saying. Don't get into that attitude or mind of reference, mind of frame. I don't need frame of mind. Frame of mind. There we go. I don't even know how long I've been talking. I mean, maybe I made this a lot longer. Let me check real quick. 20-ish minutes, I think. I could be wrong. But yeah, I didn't know I could turn this into that long of a video. It might have been repetitive, and I'm very sorry for that. I might go on a little bit more, but I think I covered all my bases, and I hope I did. If there's anything else I do want to talk about, I'll probably do it in another video. I'm just trying to think of anything else I want to talk about. I mean, I covered basically bad plays, or the widely accepted plays, why there's no bad plays, how you should go about certain scenarios, and just why there's one more. There's never a set in stone way of how you should play a certain scenario, because there's so many factors that can lead you to your moves, like your opponent's playstyle and everything. But when someone says to you, like, this is always how you should react to a situation, take it into your mind, because it's probably a good suggestion, but just interpret, your own knowledge and say, well, I like that suggestion, but I'm not always going to use it, because I know there are going to be sometimes when I could be outplayed in that scenario, or I could apply something better, or, it could put me in a worse position. So, Pokemon is a game in which that any scenario, it's not set in stone. There are so many ways you can approach a certain scenario and so many outcomes. So don't limit yourself to that one scenario, to that one thing, to that one play that people constantly do, or that people do and people recommend. Because creating your own plays and, doing something that your opponent might not suspect is how you might get the upper hand. Doing something unexpected. Yeah. So, I think I just wanted to cover that. Yeah. To conclude, there's no such thing as a bad play. And I hope you guys took away something today, and just kind of thinking about plays and people, people that made those plays, and just kind of how they come to those conclusions and whatnot. Just gotta keep that in your mind as you watch VGC, as you play VGC, as you maybe try to interpret VGC, because I think it's something that I haven't heard anyone talk about before. I just kind of saw someone comment that, that little comment in a video, and I was like, well, this could be a video topic. So, yeah, I thought it's a very good topic, I think, and I feel like lots of people can learn from it. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about today. Couple things before I wrap up, or a couple things before I go. I will try to get a podcast episode 3 up on this weekend. It might happen, it might not. I'm gonna try to. I don't know what the topic's gonna be on yet. I'll decide that maybe tomorrow or maybe Thursday. I'll try to do a Battle Spot video this week as well. And also, a very, very exciting thing. We are getting a Pokemon Direct tomorrow. So so they might announce the new Pokemon game. So stay tuned. I don't know what time it is at. I'll check. But just type in our Pokemon Direct February or 2-27, and you'll get tons of stuff. I'm very, very, very excited for it. But yeah, that's about all I want to say. If you guys did enjoy the video, leave a like down below. And if you really enjoyed it, click that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 20 subscribers by the end of March, April. We'll say the end of March. That's unrealistic. Let's go for like middle of April, right? 20. Let's do it. Okay, 20 subscribers by the end of April. That'd be much appreciated. It really helps the channel. The channel's grown exponentially over past couple of weeks and whatnot, and I really appreciate all the support that you guys bring to the channel. You really don't know how much joy this brings to me, and I love bringing content to you guys and educating you guys and making sure that you can become better VGC players. But yeah, also comment down below how you think of the series and what you think of this video. I would really like some feedback because I think it's a very interesting topic that I don't think many people talk about. Actually, I haven't heard anyone talk about it, so I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. But it's getting late. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm Everglade Glade, and I will get the heckles out of here. If I can get the heckles out of here. I might be able to. Oh boy. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so that just happened. I don't even know what happened, but that's a weird way to end the video. But I'm Everglade, guys. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button and that subscribe button. I really appreciate you watching. But anyways, guys, I will see you later. Peace.